How y'all doing?
What is up, y'all? All right, let's just address the major elephant in the room here, okay? I did upload my one and only video on this channel, and then I diffed. Okay, I am terrible. I'm inconsistent, and I'm lazy. Okay, I'm sorry. And so, yes, I did abandon this channel, but you know what? In 2023, I am going to be more consistent, and I'm going to be more active. So before the year ends, I did really want to post about the books I did read in 2022, because while I didn't update you guys about the books I was reading, my little experiment about getting back into reading did work, and I read a astounding 9 books in 2022. No, that's actually not that good. If we're comparing it to some of the girls on TikTok, they be reading like 300 books a year. I didn't even read enough to make it enough for 1 book a month. That's a whole service, and I didn't even read a book a month. But you know what? I'm proud of myself. I went from reading 0 books in 2020 to now reading 9 books in 2022. And you know what? I'm gonna do even better in 2023, okay? Because I'm in that story graph challenge, and I'm not about to lose. I'm not. But anyways, let's get into my 2022 best books. Again, it's only 9, so this is gonna be a short video, but I'm gonna do a little tier ranking. I think that's gonna be the most fun to watch. And I'm also going to give little descriptions about the books. And yeah, if you guys read these books, please tell me so in the comments and give me your opinions on them as well. Okay, so as you can see, I have the tier ranking list pulled up, and let's just go over the rankings. Okay, let's just go over the levels. The highest one you can get is talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, showstopping, spectacular. If you know this meme, you and me can be friends. All right, so that's number 1. Okay, so below that, that's no, you don't understand. I'm obsessed. Again, another meme. So that is what I consider a 4-star book. It's still very good, but not quite as good to get on the 5-star level. And then we have what we would consider average books. So that's, y'all ration around here? Come on, cook me up. Again, another meme. I'm sick. And then below that, which is like a 2-star read, that's, well, that'll do it. And then lastly, we have Immediately No. And that doesn't need explanation, like that's a 1-star book. Okay, so I literally only have 9 books to go over, so it shouldn't take long. Let's start with number 1. I did put this in order of when these books were read. So the first 3 books were actually read in January. January was just a really good month for me, I don't know what. So Beach Read, without question, that's going up here. That's going up here. For people that don't know what Beach Read's about, Beach Read is essentially a contemporary romance novel about this writer named January Andrews, and she was left a beach house by her now deceased father. And so while she's writing her next novel, she's deciding to stay in this beach house while she cleans up her father's belongings. And this story really takes off when a writer lives next door to her, and there's some history with this writer, but also this writer kind of challenges her to finish her book while he finishes his. And in this novel, you kind of go through their journey of them trying to finish their novels while also trying to come to terms with who her father was. And also there is a budding romance between this couple. It is kind of touching on enemies to lovers, which if you know me, which you probably don't because I only uploaded 1 video on this channel, but one thing you need to know about me and enemies to lovers, we go like this, all right? Like that's my bread and butter. That is what I read. That is my enjoyment. So enemies to lovers is sort of kind of an enemies to lovers kind of book. Anyways, I love this book, loved it down. And so talented, brilliant, incredible, like that is Beach Read, okay? One thing you'll know about me when you get to the end of this video, I'm an Emily Henry stan. I am. Anyways, moving on. Let's get to the second book in this list, which is There's More Beyond Surviving, Journey to Life. Now, this book is actually quite special because it's written by someone that I know personally, not to brag or anything, but I know the writer. And so, y'all better read this book. I'm just kidding, no. But I do want to kind of talk about this book because it's a very important book. It is a debut novel by author Arlette Jones Lawson, and it is the only nonfiction book in this list. I'm not one to really read a lot of nonfiction, but reading this book, I do think there's something in it for everybody. So what is this book about? In essence, this book is a self-help book, and it's kind of dedicated to people who have gone through sexual abuse or sexual assault. This book kind of helps guide you in your own healing process, which does of course look different for everybody. But what I liked about this book is, even though I personally don't have that experience, unfortunately a lot of people do. But this book doesn't just touch on that. It does touch on feelings of inadequacy, of anxiety, and just learning how to discover the strength within your own self to move forward in your life. And so I really do think this book is a very important book for a lot of people to read. Even if, again, you don't have those kind of experiences, I still think this book might be really good for you. And so this might be biased. I don't care. I do think it was well written. I'm gonna put it in the talented, brilliant, incredible. Like, y'all, this was a good book. It was. And even honestly, even if I wasn't like very close with the writer, I do think this book is a book I would have given 5 stars to. And I've never read a self-help or nonfiction book before. Well, a nonfiction book that's not related to school. And this was a pleasant surprise. And I will read more nonfiction self-help books in the future. And before I move on, go listen to the podcast. Yes, I am in promotion mode right now. Do not blame me. This book needs to be read. Okay, so let's move on to the third book on this list, which is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. Okay, so now we're at Act Your Age, Eve Brown, and this is another romance book. And it's actually part of a 3-part series. I wouldn't say it's a trilogy. You could definitely read the books out of order, which is what I did. This is the 3rd book in the series, but I haven't read the 2nd book. But personally for me, I love this book. I gave it 5 stars, so it's going in the talented, brilliant section. Like, I personally think Eve is my favorite character that I've read so far out of the sisters. She's fun, she's energetic, she is neurodivergent, which I find really cool to read in a book. She's also rich. Like all the sisters, they're all rich. And you know what? I like to read books with Black girls living their lives and being rich. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? And so what I liked about this book is it's enemies to lovers. It is. I didn't even tell you the summary. Okay, so what this book is about is about Eve, who is kind of considered like spoiled by her parent. They kind of give her an ultimatum. She's like, no, you know what? I'm going to find my own job and live my own life. And so she's on a mission. She's trying to find the job for her. So in trying to find a job for her, she comes across this bed and breakfast, which is being managed by this man named Jacob. And he's like the complete opposite of her. He's like, no joke, very serious, kind of stubborn, and like a perfectionist, right? You would think they would not even be friends, let alone lovers. But this book really takes you on a journey. I did find the book really fun, really had a blast reading it. Looking back at it though, there is some parts in this book that kind of annoy me, but you know what? The enjoyment itself makes it a 5-star book for me. But there is a bit of like a last act breakup that I thought was kind of ridiculous. Anyways though, that is a 5-star book, so it is in the top level. Let's move on to the 4th book in this list, which is People We Meet on Vacation. Again, another Emily Henry book because I love Emily Henry down, all right? Y'all don't think I'm easy as fuck, but this is going in the top section. Actually, I love People We Meet on Vacation, probably the most out of all 3 of her books. That is a hot take, I've come to realize. But I love People We Meet on Vacation. And listen, y'all, this book is not an enemies to lovers book. So what is this doing in the top ranking? Well, Emily Henry can write her ass off, and that is exactly what she did here. She made a trope that I otherwise wouldn't have cared about into a trope that I so much enjoyed that I actually want to read more. What is a trope, you ask? Friends to lovers. Simmer down. I know, Friends to Lovers gets a lot of heat online. Some people like it, some people don't. I think it's like a mixed bag kind of trope. And I didn't think I would like the trope going into it, but I think these 2 characters are so fun to read that you kind of have no choice but to want to read them together. And there's also a bit of a mystery here. So what is the mystery? Essentially, People We Meet on Vacation is about Alex and Poppy. They used to be really close friends in the past, and something happened between them. We don't really know what happened, but the story starts with them reaching out to each other after 2 years of not speaking, and they decide to go on another trip together, which is what they used to do all the time when they were close friends. And so through this novel, you kind of go through their journey of trying to re-spark their friendship while also maybe becoming something more, understanding that they might have some feelings there. While also there's flashbacks throughout the novel where you find out what actually happened in the past that caused them to not be friends anymore. And I actually really like that. It was a bit of a mystery while also being a romance. And I think it ended quite well. I mean, if I had one criticism about this book, it's probably something Alex did. And I'll put it in the comments because I don't want to ruin it for you guys. But that's like literally the only thing. I really love this book. I have no criticism for it. And any of y'all that want to hate on this book, like, because it's literally a trend at this point to hate on this book, to act like this is her worst book. I think you guys need to look at this book. I think you guys need to look at it with fresh eyes because this book is actually really, really fun. I liked it. And it's staying in the top. Next up, we have Book Lovers. Another Emily Henry book. This is going in the No You Don't Understand, I'm Obsessed. So this book was actually her latest novel, released in May, and it follows Nora, who is a cutthroat literary agent that lives in the city, and Charlie Lastra, who is a book editor. And somehow they both end up in this small town, and he's there for a reason, she's there for a reason, and they have no other choice but to really like see each other. So it does start off as enemies to lovers because they don't necessarily get off on the right foot the first time they meet in the city, but when they meet again in the countryside small town, they do start to open up to each other, and it's a really nice book. So why didn't this get as high of a ranking as her other two novels? Listen, this still got a very high ranking. It's a 4.5 star read for me. But the reason why I didn't have it as high up here as the others, I don't really know. I think maybe it's just because she had set the bar so high with those other two books. And Book Lovers, it didn't feel as connected, as deep as the others. I think maybe because they did start off as like strangers. And so, yeah, but Book Lovers is still a really great book. I mean, Emily Henry's a great writer. And so if you like enemies to lovers novels, and if you like small town romance types of books, I think this is up your alley. But for me, it's just gonna stay here. Okay, so next up we have Funny You Should Ask, which is actually a book I was very excited to read. But I do think out of all the books here, it was the most disappointing. But I didn't hate it. I just wish it was better. So I gave it a 3.5 stars, but here I'm gonna put it in the middle rank. Y'all rushing around here? Yeah, I'm putting it here. So what is Funny You Should Ask about? So Funny You Should Ask is about a journalist named Shawnee and a movie star named Gabe Parker. And this movie star used to be her celebrity crush. And in the past, they actually did an interview together, which was really popular, and it did great things for both their careers. But in the present day, Gabe is sort of a has-been. He really is. He's done a few stints in rehab. He's been kicked off of a movie series. It's not looking too good for him. So before his return to this movie he's doing, his PR team requests to do this interview again 10 years later as a follow-up interview. So what makes this book so fun is that the public believes that something happened between them. And so we're kind of looking for context clues as to what might have happened after that initial interview 10 years prior. And it's very awkward for them when they meet up in the present day. So it's kind of like what I liked about people who meet on vacation. We're looking at the past and we're also looking at the present. But I think what makes this book not work for me is just that I didn't really like the main character. Chani, for me, was a bit irritating to read. She's the type of person that doesn't like to take responsibility for some of the things she does and says. But I really liked Gabe. I think they made Gabe quite likable, but also a bit pathetic. You know what I mean? But anyways, I did enjoy it for what it was, but I wish it was better. So it is staying in the middle section. Next up, we have 7 Days in June. So 7 Days in June, I rated a 4 stars. So it's gonna go right next to Book Lovers. So what is 7 Days in June about? 7 Days in June is a contemporary romance novel. So this book has the second chance romance trope in it. And essentially you're following Ava and Shane. They're both writers, both successful in their own right. Shane is more, I guess you could say, critically acclaimed. His novels are kind of promoted towards the like highbrow audience. Well, Ava is a fantasy romance writer, so her books are more catered towards a very dedicated fan base. She just has never really gotten that critical acclaim yet. However, they're both very successful writers, right? But what makes this book so fun to read is that they kind of had something happen between the two of them 20 years prior, and we just don't know what it is. So it's kind of similar to people we meet on vacation. There's a history between them that we are finding out throughout the novel. And when they're meeting in present day, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of tension between them. But then you find out why the tension is there, and you see them try and move past that. And again, the funnest aspect of this book is that these two are writers writing about each other in their novels. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? So again, I thought this book was actually quite fun, despite how dark it gets. But I also think that because it's a Black couple, the way the writing is done, I feel like I was reading people that I knew in real life. You know what I mean? Not that I don't have issues reading romance novels with white folks, but there's just something so different about reading romance that center Black characters. So I think if you're Black especially, this type of book is definitely something you want to get into. So this book sounds really great, right? Why don't I have it up here? Why don't I have it at the top? Because this book is quite popular and it is a 5-star read for many people. The reason why I don't have it as a 5-star read is because the first 2/3 of this book were amazing. I really loved it. I was enthralled by the book. The last third of this novel kind of lost me. I mean, it wasn't bad. Again, the writing is great, but I feel like there were some decisions made that I wasn't fully on board with. With one character in particular, he's not the main character, but he's a side character, and I did not like the choice that they decided to go with his character. But you know what? It's still a great book, and I still would highly suggest people read this, especially if you're a Black girl. All right, y'all, we are in the final stretch. We have 2 books left, and our next book is the Atlas 6. And you know what? The Atlas 6, it's going to go here in the 4th level. I personally really enjoyed this book, but I think this book is a book that kind of gets mixed reviews by some people. I feel like people either hate it or love it. And I loved the book. I gave it a 4.75 star. It wasn't exactly a 5-star read for me. But I do think this book is a book that does take some time to get used to the writing, because this book is heavy in its purple prose, very heavy. It's kind of similar to Ninth House for me. It took me a while to get used to the writing, but once you get used to the writing, I think it is a fun ride. Okay, so what is the Atlas 6? So let me just say this. If you're into dark academia, this is a book you probably already have read, but it should definitely be on your TBR if you haven't. This book follows the Alexandrian Society, which is a secret society for magical people. And so the members of this society are kind of caretakers for all the lost knowledge in the world. And essentially, if you're a member of the society, you're set for life. You have access to immense power, wealth, and of course, knowledge. And so, of course, you really can't just be anybody and become a member of this society. You have to be initiated. And the initiation process is a pretty long and laborious process. And it only comes around every decade. And so in this book, we follow 6 different initiates go through the process of trying to get into society. And essentially what they're told is 6 of you arrive, but only 5 of you are able to get into the society.
What do you mean by that?
One of the 6 is getting eliminated. Again, what do you mean by that? You'll just have to read. You'll just have to read. But it is a book about survival as well. So why did I love this book so much? You know what? This book, in my opinion, is more so a character study than anything else. Like, yeah, the magic is a very important aspect to this book, and it is like the backdrop for most of the story as well. But what I find the most interesting about this book is the characters. And some of the characters are not very likable. And you know what? Reading a book with characters that aren't actually very likable can be fun sometimes, can be really entertaining. You know, each character has their own power, they have their own reason for being there, and they have their own strengths and weaknesses. And I think that's the most interesting part of this book, is seeing these characters interact, seeing them grow or regress, and also seeing, obviously, the mystery of which character is going to end up eliminated. A major criticism I see for this book is that a lot of people did not feel connected to any of the characters. And honestly, I could see that. You know, this book, as much as I think it is a character study, I do think that it follows too many characters to the point where you can't really connect to a certain character because they kind of move along quite quickly. Like one chapter you're reading from one person's perspective, the next chapter you're reading from another person's perspective, and it switches off just like that. And so it is very easy to not feel a connection with some of the characters. But I do think I felt enough of a connection to care about whether some characters survive and whether some characters don't. But I definitely do see the criticisms for it. Now, when it comes to the writing itself, I also think some people don't like the writing. I think they think it's like trying to be smart. But personally, I think this writer is very talented, and that's just the way she writes. And I enjoy it. Again, it takes some time. There's a lot of times where I had to reread. Am I dumb, or is this like a really purple prose? I don't know. But I do think once you get used to her writing, it really isn't that hard to like follow along. But yeah, so anyway, that was The Atlas 6. And now we are on to the last book in this list. And dare I say, my favorite book in this list. We have Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones and the Six, without a doubt, no question about it, is going right up here above everything else. Daisy Jones and the Six. What else can I say besides she really is that bitch? Daisy, y'all don't understand. I was not planning to read this book this year. I wasn't. The author, Taylor Jenkins Reid, she has another novel that's quite popular on Book Talk and BookTube called The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And that is the book that I quite literally bought and was going to read. But then I realized that Daisy Jones and the Six was going to be a show. And for me, I like to read the books before I watch a show. And so Daisy Jones and the Six, I was like, you know what? Let me give it a try. Let me listen to the audiobook. All right, shout out to the Libby app. Y'all had me. Y'all got my back. So I listened to the audiobook. And it was my first ever audiobook. I've never listened to an audiobook before. And I personally think the book itself, along with the production of this audiobook, caused me to have the best experience of my life. I finished this in 2 days while I was working. And what else can I say? Daisy Jones and the Six altered my brain chemistry. It changed the course and the whole trajectory of my life. It really was that major of a book for me. So why did I love this book so much? Let me get into it. So Daisy Jones and the Six is a historical fiction novel, and it is structured as an interview. So it's not your typical novel. However, I listened to it as an audiobook, so I didn't really get that difference, but I'm pretty sure if you're reading this, it probably would be a pretty huge difference for you. But again, it is set up as an interview, and we are going back in the history of this 70s rock band that broke up for a reason that is unknown to the audience. And throughout this novel, we figure out how this band came to be, how this band grew in popularity and had such a huge career, and why the band broke up after their first tour. And when I tell you, I was enthralled. I was obsessed. I was so interested in this book. I wanted to know why it ended. I mean, it's just good writing. What can I say? And what I find cool about this book is that I feel like the main appeal to reading this novel at first is figuring out why the band breaks up. But as you're reading the book, you become so connected and attached to these characters that you just want to figure out like where their lives ended up. You just want to know what is going on in these characters' lives. It's not even really about the band at the end. I mean, of course, that is like a major factor. But for me, it was really the characters that made me so obsessed with this book. And these characters are not perfect. They're not perfect at all. They make so many mistakes. But it is very realistic in my opinion. And I think a reason why I think these characters aren't perfect is because the band wasn't perfect. The band was created in a pretty unorthodox way. Daisy Jones and the Six wasn't always Daisy Jones and the Six. Daisy Jones was doing her own thing, and the Six were doing their own thing. So because of the way this band is put together, it does take them quite a bit of time to get used to each other and especially to get along. And that is very much true, especially for Daisy and Billy, who is the leader of the Six. And there is a lot of tension, a lot of arguing. It is, again, drugs, alcohol. This is the 70s. It's the 70s. And so I think along with the writing, the production of the audiobook just made me feel like I was there. You know, the acting was so good. And I just cannot wait for the show. Let me tell you, when the show comes out in March, I will be the most insufferable person. I will be the most insufferable person on this planet. Okay. So anyways, like I said before, 5-star read. Probably my favorite book of this year, Daisy Jones and the Six. Came by surprise, completely caught me off guard, but you know what? Don't you love that when a book does that to you? Anyways, we're done. These were the 2022 top books that I read. The only books that I read, to be honest. But you know what? I am super glad that I got back into reading because these books were really great to read. And I cannot wait for next year. You know, we've got Ninth House, the follow-up book to that. We have Emily Henry's next romance novel. And then again, we have Daisy Jones and the Six, the TV show. And so, yeah, very exciting stuff happening in 2023. Okay, so that is the end of this video, but you know what? Before I go, I want to let you guys know, I want to assure you that I will be back in 2023. All right, I'm not gonna leave y'all hanging. I'm not gonna disappear, I promise. 2023, you will be getting way more of me. I actually already have some videos planned out. I have a video already filmed that just needs to be edited. So it's gonna be really exciting stuff. You know what, let me just give you a hint of some of the stuff that I have planned for 2023. So one video I'm going to do on Vampire Academy. You know, Peacock just released its adaptation series not too long ago, so I'm going to be comparing it to the movie as well as the series, which I'm going to be rereading for that video. Because y'all know I love the Vampire Academy series. That was like one of my favorite books back in high school. So yes, of course, how to do that. And then I'm also going to be making a video on Daisy Jones and the Six when that comes out in March. And I'm also going to be making a video reading the Ninth House sequel, Hellbent. Y'all, I already have this pre-ordered. Like, I am so excited for this book, y'all don't even know. I will be documenting the whole process of me reading Hellbent, so look forward to that. And another video that I have already filmed is a video about me going back to Tumblr. Yep, I was a Tumblr girl, and so the next video on this channel will be about Tumblr. So look forward to that as well. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and if you want, subscribe. I promise I will be back. Let me know in the comments what your top books were for 2022. I'm sure a lot of you read way more books than I did in 2022, but just let me know, what your rankings were for some of the books I have on this list, and also books that you think I should read in 2023. Definitely interested in any recommendations that you guys have for me. So with that, I wish you guys a happy holidays, and I hope you guys enjoy your New Year's, and I will see you in 2023. Bye.
I never understood why somebody would just